I had chosen not to disclose my location because I wasn't supposed to be home today. In fact, I was meant to be away for another week. My intention was to surprise Sophia with something new, breaking the monotony of our usual phone calls and video chats. The thought of her reaction filled me with a bubbling excitement. I could vividly picture her face lighting up with joy when she opened the door to find me standing there. I longed for her to wrap her arms around me tightly, perhaps even shedding a few tears, overwhelmed by how much she had missed me during our time apart. But, as is often the case, life had other plans. The journey back home was surprisingly smooth. There were no traffic jams, delays, or lost luggage to contend with at the airport. My phone buzzed, but my suitcase sat comfortably in the passenger seat, everything seemingly falling perfectly into place for my surprise. I often avoided checking my unread messages, wanting to remain fully present for the moment I would step into our home after weeks apart. I found myself daydreaming about sinking back into my own bed and kissing my wife. However, as I turned onto my street, an unsettling feeling crept over me. Cars were lined up along the curb in front of my house, which struck me as unusual. At first, I thought Sophia might be hosting friends, a possibility that wouldn't have been out of character for her. But as I drew closer, I noticed several upscale vehicles adorned with small pink and blue ribbons, suggesting a baby-themed gathering. My gaze shifted to the front yard, where pink and blue balloons danced gently from the porch railing. A large banner fluttered in the breeze, and the words on it hit me like a punch to the gut. My grip on the steering wheel tightened as I struggled to process the scene before me. The house I had left felt different. It was not the structure that had changed, but the atmosphere felt foreign. The garden was as well kept as ever, the walls unchanged, yet felt as if I was walking into someone else's life. The air was filled with laughter, music, and the clinking of glasses, indicating a gathering was in full swing. To avoid being seen, I parked a few houses down, my palms clammy against the leather steering wheel. My heart raced with confusion. Perhaps this was a neighbor's party, or maybe I had misinterpreted everything. But when I turned off the engine and stepped outside, the sweet scent of freshly cut grass mingled with the unmistakable aroma of celebration enveloped me. Despite the urge to call Sophia, I resisted, wanting to uncover the truth myself. As I walked toward the house, my thoughts spiraled into darker places than I wished to acknowledge. Peering to the wide living room window, I saw a crowd of familiar faces mingling and celebrating. The decorations were elaborate, clearly not hastily thrown together. The gifts piled by the fireplace appeared to be thoughtfully chosen. Then I noticed the front door was ajar. Taking a deep breath, I stepped inside, blending into the background amidst the noise of conversations, laughter, and music. That's when I spotted her, Sophia, radiant beneath the bright lights. But she wasn't looking at me. Instead, she was smiling at Jonah, my best friend, who was cradling her pregnant belly, a belly I hadn't even known existed. In that moment, everything inside me froze. My mother, standing near the kitchen, tensed upon seeing me. Her expression revealed the truth I had been trying to avoid. They all knew. Jonah was animatedly discussing the nursery, recounting how he and Sophia had painted it together and chosen the crib. I felt as if I was drowning in realization. Sophia turned mid-laugh, and her smile faltered as she locked eyes with me, witnessing the exact moment her world shattered. Jonah, blissfully unaware, continued to speak, claiming they had discovered the news together last week, grinning as if he hadn't just obliterated my entire existence. I barely registered my mother rushing toward me, urging me to step outside, whispering, "We weren't expecting you today," as if that would somehow change the harsh reality of the situation. My voice was dangerously low as I asked how long this had been going on. The room fell silent. Someone turned off the music. My words hung in the air like a knife poised to strike. Jonah's hands dropped from her belly and Sophia turned pale, but it was too late. I had seen everything. This was no accident. It was a betrayal that had been meticulously orchestrated. The silence that enveloped the room extinguished the laughter and halted the clinking of glasses. Sophia's mother recoiled in shock, and my father, who had been drinking the corner, averted his gaze. There stood Jonah, the man who had once been my closest friend, paralyzed by guilt. Sophia finally whispered, I can explain. As if mere words could mend the irreparable damage that had been done. I clenched my jaw, fist tightening, exhaling slowly. I was more than willing to hear her out. But Jonah was left speechless for once. The man who could usually charm his way out of any situation rendered mute. My mother, ever the peacekeeper, continued to urge me to leave, but there was no peace left to salvage. I turned to Jonah, calmly stating, "You better get a job." His brow furrowed in confusion, and I smiled coldly at him, because you're on your own now. Sophia gasped, and I delivered the final blow. I wasn't just working overseas, I was consulting a lawyer. Jonah's eyes widened in shock. I let my words settle like a heavy weight before sealing their fate. I have proof of every penny I spent on this house, on this marriage. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving them to grapple with the wreckage of their choices. The night air hit me like a cold slap, and my hands trembled from a mix of rage and shock. Behind me, the party descended into stunned silence, but I knew it wouldn't last. Whispers would soon erupt, followed by excuses and apologies. I didn't care anymore. I had spent the past year working overseas, striving for our future, while they indulged in this betrayal. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of relief. I was no longer burdened by the happiness of others. I was free to pursue my own happiness, and that thought brought a genuine smile to my face. That evening, I texted Jonah 2 words, "Speak with my lawyer." After believing I had given him everything, I turned off my phone. No more Noah, no more explanations, no more chances. I was reclaiming everything that was rightfully mine. Moments before court battle commenced, a wave of emotions washed over me, some subtle, others nearly suffocating. But one thing was abundantly clear. I was done. It was time to regain control because the betrayal had already unfolded, and the damage was irreparable. The next morning, I awaited my lawyer's call. At precisely 9 a.m., while seated in my motel room, my phone rang. "We're ready, Noah," my lawyer said. I leaned back against the headboard, gripping the phone tightly. "Please guide me through the filing process." Jonah had no legal claim to the house, since it was now solely in my name, with all financial contributions recorded under me. Sophia would have a right to object, but given the circumstances, her case wouldn't hold. "We're filing for an uncontested divorce," my lawyer explained, "and she won't have access to any of your funds. If she opposes it, we can go to court, but she won't win." I absorbed this information, my entire marriage reduced to financial records and legal jargon. It felt almost ironic. I had built everything for our future, and now, all that mattered was how swiftly I could dismantle it. "What about my accounts?" I inquired. "We're already safeguarding them," my lawyer reassured me. "Jonah's possessions and joint accounts are frozen." He had no idea that this was only the beginning. That afternoon, the text began. "Sophia, Noah, I understand you're upset, but can we please talk? I didn't want this to happen." I ignored it. An hour later, another message followed. "Sophia, please, just one conversation. You don't need to do this." She acted as if I was the one who had chosen to end our marriage, rather than acknowledging her role in its destruction. Jonah's message came next. "I know I made a mistake, but I won't let this go. We can figure this out, okay?" The audacity of his words struck me, but I had already made my decision the moment he stood in my house next to my wife, preparing for a baby. I locked my phone. It was no longer mine to fix. The following morning, Sophia must have received the initial batch of documents because her tone shifted. "Sophia, Noah, please, let's talk before this happens." I stared at the message longer than I should have, expecting the familiar ache of wanting to mend things, but it never came. Instead, I sent a straightforward text to my lawyer. "Make sure Jonah gets nothing." His prompt reply assured me, "Believe me, I've got it covered." Days passed, and Jonah attempted to reach out. Then my phone rang with another number, Marissa. "Noah, I won't defend her behavior. I raised my daughter better than this. But don't you think you're going too far?" I shook my head, closing my eyes. That was precisely the issue. They couldn't fathom my seriousness. They assumed I was merely reacting, that I would eventually forgive, and everything would revert to normal. They were mistaken. 2 days later, my lawyer informed me that Jonah had received his papers. I grinned when I saw his message. "Noah, man, this is crazy. You're making me feel cold." I let it go to voicemail. Another text followed. "Where should I go?" I gazed at the TV, a dark sense of satisfaction creeping in. By the end of the week, everything began to unravel for them. Sophia was losing not only a spouse, but her financial stability. Jonah was losing a friend and the free ride he had enjoyed for years. I was reclaiming what was rightfully mine. Months passed, and word spread that Jonah was couch surfing at Marissa's house, while Sophia was forced to rely on him. The cracks in their facade began to show, and she finally recognized Jonah for who he truly was. Not a lover or protector, but merely a leech. Then I received a text from an unknown number, which I almost ignored. Curiosity won out. "Sophia," I left him. I stared at the message, devoid of regret or sadness, just a quiet, undeniable satisfaction. In the end, Kara had done the rest, and I relished every moment of it.